when you can conceive that Ferraris are being built, not regulated, released and acquired, and 16-year-olds are given keys, then I think people have a framework to understand there are questions that must be asked. And those questions is the pause.
Hey everyone, B. Donald Harris here. Welcome to the Notable in Black Tech podcast.
I'm Major Phillips, your co-host, your corporate extraordinaire. I don't know what to say.
I'm Randall Phillips, another co-host, retro technician and robotics coach.
That's all good though. Hey, how your week been doing? How's everybody been doing since the last time we talked? I know it's been a minute. What's going on, Randall? What's been happening?
I got a chance to meet with a new robotics competition. They're actually out in California. It's an international robotics competition, and they have a base out of California. It's called World Robot Olympiad. Had a great video meeting with them yesterday. They're gonna front me a little money to get started, and I'm gonna actually use this rest of this year to get ramped up for the start of the season in January to go along with what's going on in the robotic world. And also, I'm starting my AI motion with one of our previous hosts. So I'm going through her app to get on board with the AI a little bit faster.
Previous guest.
Say the lady name, man.
Carol.
Yeah, man. Come on,
Yeah,
say her name. What you doing?
there was no NDAs here.
Yeah, and you need to say your sponsor a couple more times since they giving you some money. You need to go on. What's their name again? The people giving you money?
World Robot Olympiad.
World Robot
WRO.
Olympiad.
Yep.
There you go, spell it. All right.
What about you guys? What you guys been doing?
Man, I had I got my new little job. I had somebody really get on my nerve. It's the first time my pressure was high in a meeting.
So the honeymoon season is over for your new
Man, I
job.
don't know who this dude is. I never seen him before in my life, and I'm trying to solve this problem. So when I have a problem, everybody got to get on the call because everybody need to fix this problem because it's a problem, right? It's a blocker. We got to take care of this. Man, the dude got on the call and was like, he said, I don't even know why we need to have a phone call right now. Why everybody on this call? What is this for? We need to know what the requirement is and just send me an email. We don't need to have a call for this. I went on the side. Who is this? I started texting people. Who man's is this? Because I'm about to go off on this dude. He finna lose his job in about 5 minutes.
So he
Then
done
they hit me.
so he done
Don't worry
been
about it.
introduced to Major now.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have a conversation next time I see him. Next time if I have a meeting with him, I'm gonna stop the whole meeting. We're gonna have a conversation in front of everybody. Hey
There
man,
you go.
you ain't gotta be here. You do not have to be here. You can easily not accept this meeting. What's wrong with this dude, man? Everybody, hey, hey, y'all know, hey, I got. You see on this screen right there? What it say? Major. Do not
Major.
play with me. Come on, man. That's all. I don't need no last name. That's all I need.
His name is Major. His personality is Major.
That's
And he
it.
gonna hit you majorly.
Right.
Yeah. Hit it
Right. I'm
again.
not going. Exactly. Donna, what's going on, man? You the make hey, oh, hold on, wait a minute,
Yeah,
pause.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna let you do it. I'm gonna do it myself.
Oh, you gonna do it? I was about to say it. Go ahead.
A big round of applause to the winner of the hackathon. I don't know which one it was. The grand prize. He need to share the money with us.
There you go.
Mr. B. Dollar Harris, #1 developer in Oklahoma. There we go.
All right.
I, I don't,
Congratulations.
I don't, I don't
Congratulations.
know about being the #1 developer in Oklahoma, but but yeah, but I did win first place. In Blackathon. It's a night. It was a
Blackathon.
black. Yeah, it was a black hackathon. It was a 24-hour hackathon I participated in last week. Um, and so that was this thing. Well, it was, it was centered around AI products, and AI powered apps. And so I had this idea that I was thinking about, and I said, well, this is a good time to do a POC. And so the POC was centered around, a lot of sometimes when people are developing with AI, if they're using they may be using multiple products. They may be using Claude, Copilot, or they may be conversing with chat. And then you got your GitHub commits, or your commits, your repo commits, maybe in GitHub or GitLab, wherever you store your repo. Then you may have some notes. You may have some terminal history when you're working through some terminal things. And so what happens is, and we talk about dev- since development is moving more towards AI, then we have this thing called comprehension debt. Because when traditionally when we code it, because we write all the code, we comprehend everything pretty much. That stuff stick in our brain, the workflows stick in our brain, all of the classes, the objects, all that we have. And so when bugs happen, real life production bugs happen, we have an idea. We know where to go. We know where to look, or know where to start looking in order to debug a program. But then now coding with AI, if if we're if we're not structuring what we're doing, then what we have comprehension debt. So now we have a real life production bug that happened in production. We may not know where to look because there's some things we don't comprehend about the code if we have not been carefully constructing everything. So I just thought
Yeah.
about a PLC. Well, okay, well, what if we had an app that we can ingest our GitHub commit history? We can ingest some of our chat history with the AI chatbots. If we can put in some of our terminal history, and then some of our written notes, and then we actually connected to a LLM, like, and I used I connected it to OpenAI the API, and
Yeah.
you ingest all of that, and then the LLM would take it and organize it and create a timeline. And then so now you have a real timeline of everything you've done. And then from that timeline, it also produces some insights. So now you have insights about decisions you made, barriers, or even bugs and bug fixes that you hit. And so now you can actually have a comprehensive history of what you've done. So now it decreases the comprehension. It doesn't bring it to zero, but it decreases the comprehension debt. And as a final piece of the workflow, my thought was, and some people build, and some people like to build in public, and some people like to talk about what they're building. Some people like write blog posts, or do LinkedIn posts, or write articles, or maybe do a presentation. And so at the end, it'll publish you a copy paste ready LinkedIn posts, blog posts, documentation, all that. So that's and so it was a POC. I didn't get a chance to do a full workup of it, but I built it enough to do the entire workflow, and I used some sample data and create that. So that's what got me first place.
Bro, that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yeah,
Man, me and you need to on so much stuff, but then we don't collab on other stuff. So
yeah.
on the application I'm building, I actually used OpenAI as my project manager.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
get what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so it it takes care of my backlog, all my enhancements, my bugs, prioritization of enhancements and bugs that we come up with, and also creating a manifest of what has been done, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like what you, man. You
Oh,
put them. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
I'm using the AI like I have built like I've used teams, right? I
Hmm.
always have a PM. I always have a QA. I always have
Yeah,
engineers. I have all that stuff at my disposal. So I'm just using the AI the same way because that's how I build software, right? First, I got to
right.
come up with a plan, and then I got my project manager. We organize the plan and keep up with it, and milestones and sprints and all that stuff. I just do it with the AI instead of hiring somebody.
Man, yeah,
I'm
exactly. And that right there, and I think these are some of the seeds of getting to
yeah,
proper use of it, because that's one term, and y'all know that I don't like. Y'all have heard me say it multiple times. I don't like that term coding. Because vibe coding gives you the mindset and the idea that you just prompt an AI prompt by prompt, trying to build something with, and not even paying attention to what you're doing. You're not checking the code. You're not doing the processes that you're doing. You're not project managing. You're not doing those things. And
regression testing,
yeah, right, exactly,
functional testing,
exactly,
all that, right?
exactly. Yeah, and I usually and I usually do things on, and I create spec docs that in markdown format that my AI uses. And I make sure that it anytime it does something, it got to go through those documentation, so it can know what the standards are, know what design patterns to use, and know what rules to follow. Because I don't trust AI enough to just to make all those decisions by itself.
Dude, I was just thinking about, man, me and you back in the day when we was developing I don't know, one of them applications. And cause I got that same test in my head. And you'll know the one I'm talking about, the data type test, where we done somewhere in the code we have said that it'll be a decimal with so much precision, right? And
Yeah,
then but in other places we didn't capture that precision. That book, dude, because we went through that stuff, 10, 15 years ago manually.
yeah,
That bug
yeah,
has stuck in my head for so long that I test for it all the time.
yeah.
And I done got Claude to help out with it. It done did the same thing. It done went and created some stuff and then keep the precision consistent. And then I ran through my same test I done did all my life. And,
Yeah.
and we off. I'm like, bro, go check the data types and the tables that was created and all of the code and oh, I found the bug. No shit.
Yeah. And look, and
Playing
look,
with me, man.
and,
Right. Yeah. Quit playing.
and look, we can keep going on and on, but we got
Yeah.
somebody backstage.
Yo, Black Builders. If you're out here learning, building, experimenting, and trying to find your people, BitVoices Network is for you. This is more than just another platform. It's a space where Black technologists, founders, creators, and future builders can be seen, supported, and in motion together. Share what you're working on. Join the conversation. Tap into builder hubs. Learn from others who are building for real. We're not just talking about ideas over here. We're building culture, community, and momentum. Join us inside BitVoices Network. Come build with us.
We got somebody backstage, and looking at their resume, I know I'm sure that they can confidently speak to some of the things that we're talking about right now, and beyond. So we have LaMont Wheat. He's a harmonic architect. He's executive AI stabilization and governance advisor. He helps leaders regain clarity, agency, and authorship in the age of intelligent systems. He's the founder of PhaseLock. It's a human in the loop framework built around the idea that before leaders deploy AI, they must first orient themselves. Through his executive AI orientation reset, LaMont helps executives and teams get clear before their systems scale. So AI adoption strengthens their voice, direction, and decision making instead of disorienting it. So we want to welcome to the show LaMont.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, hey, that's where we are now. We're in an era where this digital technology is teaching us a thing or two. So thank you guys for having me be a part of the conversation today.
All right, look, appreciate you for coming. So now, look, listen, that's something that was said in the intro. You describe yourself as a harmonic architect. Now, so for listeners who may be hearing that term for the first time, what does it mean, and how does it shape the way you approach AI leadership?
That's a great question, and I'll kind of dial it back a little bit. I started out as an entrepreneur many, many years ago in landscape design. Actually, when I was 14, that was my first business. And what I appreciated about working in nature and in landscape was discovering how we could take our hands and our minds and our creative expression and bring structures together that people appreciated.
Hmm.
From that, I grew into leading teams within enterprise organizations, pretty much in the IT space. I worked for Carlos Slim, CompUSA Stores headquarters in emerging technologies. And one of the things that I recognized about myself is I saw things in architecture, structure, and pattern. And so working in an enterprise organization where there's thousands of employees, I think we led 329 retail stores and many auxiliaries, partners, vendors, and products and SKUs. Pattern recognition was something that, people leaned on me for, and it was something that came natural. So harmonic architect in the agentic era really is a representation of someone who is capable of pattern recognition across multiple domains. So whether it's utilities, arts, media, science, seeing the patterns that creates continuity and keeps everything together. So that would be my breakdown of what a harmonic architect would be, creating harmony based on patterns to create stable, excuse me, stabilization and stability and continuity across systems.
Awesome. Yeah, so I like that. That are pretty good. So now I'm gonna ask you this question. I know, as we talked about, we in the agentic era. A lot of companies rushing into AI tools, automations, and agents. Now, from your perspective, what does it look like when an executive team is not properly oriented before bringing AI into the organization?
Yeah. So great question. So people usually bring me in when AI isn't doing what they expected that it would. And to give a little bit of context to help people frame what orientation really means is, you guys, work in a space where there's been new technology, new software, new apps that have been deployed, within environments. And usually there is some type of training, there's some type of, hey, this is how you use it, this is how you remain safe. Especially in the .com era, we wanted to make sure we were not risking, the organization to hacks and vulnerabilities and clicking on wrong links. So, that's baseline orientation. And what I recognize, as people began to use AI more and then deploy AI into their small, medium-sized business and even enterprise, people were not, none of us were oriented in 2023. I believe it was February when Chat GPT hit the scene.
Yep.
Like no one
Hmm.
said this is how you use it, this is how you
They
remain
sure
safe.
did.
Like we all just had to figure it out, right? And so people began using these technologies, integrating these technologies, and then drift occurred, hallucination occurred.
Yes.
It didn't give you the right response, and so that's AI. So now, fast forward 3 years later, a little bit more than that. Now we're in the agentic era, which is not where someone's speaking to a chat model. They're actually deploying agents that can take action. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you think about not being oriented and understanding what we as human systems are interfacing with, meaning digital systems, we think it's an app, we think it's software, we think it's a new tool, and it's not. Then we're approaching it, we're integrating it into our lives, into our business with that orientation. And so, companies reach out to me when they're having issues, drift, wrong data, wrong reports, and they believe the AI is the problem. And what I've discovered in my work is that it is typically a lack of human orientation to how humans are interacting and engaging with this technology.
So what do you think when you interacting with these companies? When you jump in there, what's the number one pitfall you see that happens? First off
So,
the rip.
so typically, lack of adoption is usually why things are not happening. Typically, if you have a company that says, "Hey, I'm going to invest in AI and I'm going to train all of my employees to use it," there's usually resistance because people
You think
people
it's
have their
because
people.
of trust or something like that?
Yeah, people have their ideas around what it is, right? So what is AI? What is it? Yet my
Yep.
company is saying they've bought it and we got to use this new tool.
Okay.
We got to talk to it. So adoption stalls because there was no proper orientation, yet people are oriented in a way that maybe the organization isn't aware. Maybe they're anti-AI because they understand some negative impacts that happen
Mm-hmm.
to it, or they just have a fear around what it really is. And so companies would say, we can't get the AI to do this, but typically what I find is the people that are interacting with it are not fully interacting with it
Okay.
because they may be using a system on the side, and Donald, you may know about this. You have one CRM and then you deploy a new CRM.
Yep.
You got to integrate everyone over to the new CRM, but they still
Yep.
may be straddling, right? And
Yep.
so if they're not comfortable with the new CRM, they're still going to kind of do their job in the old CRM. So AI is met with that same resistance. If people don't feel comfortable using it and understand what it really is, or they feel trepidation that it's going to take my job, so I'm just not going to give it what I do. So that stalls adoption. That also impacts how the AI functions within those environments.
Yeah. 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 It does. That's that made me think about something funny. When if you think about any time that there's someone comes up new on a job, and then so they train with somebody, and this typically our people. They're like, well, this is the way the company tells us to do it, but this is the way I do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so right,
yeah.
right.
And it's really impactful, in AI and agentics, because the example that you just gave, um, as you guys know, AI accelerates friction. So if friction is entered into a system, meaning, hey, this is the company protocol, this is in alignment with the company mission, this is what the training is saying that has been authorized of how you should behave. That is the training. But then if you have someone that's already diverged from the mission and they're saying, but hey, do it this way, this is gonna, right?
Yeah.
That introduces friction in the
Yep.
system, at least from the ones that are governing. So when you think about AI scales that, right? It scales it exponentially because let's say if you have deployed AI into your environment and someone has put in policy, right, for that AI to interact, but then a human who is not properly oriented tells a new employee or someone they're training, but do it this way, then they're going to be interacting with that digital intelligence outside of the protocol, which creates drift and hallucination. So most people perceive that the AI is hallucinating and drifting, but it really is the input, the human interface that is lacking or absent of context or has drifted from the protocol or what is properly governed by the AI that introduces what would drift. And once something drifts, if there are agentic technologies involved, those agents will accelerate that drift. So that's, when people call me, they're already at the accelerated drift point and they think it's the tool. And I have to step them back and say it's the orientation of your people engaging with the tool.
So
So
so the,
you kind of reminded me of so I wrote an article a while back about how, how we got a lot of BI tools in business, Power BI, Tableau, stuff like that, right? This stuff that just takes data, creates a pretty picture, and then we can get some insight off of it. I wrote an article saying that I feel like that's going to go away because we could just put the AI on top of a data set and be able to ask real questions of the data and get a response back. So, what would you think would be the issue of like you said, people adopting the new direction? So, if I got a CPA, or maybe not a CPA, but and an analyst that's been doing spreadsheets for 50 years. Okay, now we done brought in LLM on top to say, hey, we don't need to do the spreadsheet no more. Johnny, you can come over here and work with this LLM a little bit more efficiently. What kind of pushback are we going to see there? Because you were saying that that it's hard to get people to change.
Yeah, so human orientation really is something that, starts with understanding who we are, how we operate, what resonates, what doesn't. And, I think you guys said it earlier, when you're training someone on a new system, people have already made it their own inside the system. So when you think about the analogy that you gave, a CPA, an accountant who probably has, identity around the success that they have experienced as an accountant, as a CPA, as getting proven results, now saying, hey, we really don't need that anymore. You can just use this.
mm,
What that does is that confronts human identity.
it
And
does.
again, my work is more so on the human side that is interfacing with these technologies. Not to say that the technology doesn't have the capability to function, but the humans that are now required to engage with these technologies to get output won't get the output if they show up engaging with the system fractured. And fractured meaning their identity is threatened. One formula that I offer quite a bit is identity absent of continuity collapses into fear. So if you have built yourself into an identity and everything reinforces that identity, as soon as something disengages or does not reinforce the identity, you have to reflect what does that mean. And typically the collapse turns into fight or flight. This is just human
Hmm.
psychology. And so you're either going to flee or you're going to resist, fight. And so when you tell a CPA, hey, use this tool, it can cut your time in half. They're not hearing that. They're hearing this could take away what I enjoy doing. So something is going to replace me. That is an identity threat.
Yeah, right. See, now we're moving beyond tech and human behavior, and we move and we're moving into psychology, and that's something that has to be addressed. Now I'll even bring it to personally to as a software developer engineer. You know, I think maybe even 6 months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, you start hearing talk about AI is going to replace mid-level and junior level engineers, and then you have senior level engineers who love to code, and and like I said, they built their whole identity around coding and solving problems. And now this new tool comes in that can do the code for you. And so and so now you're having to move more into a architectural type function with those agents. And what I've had to wrap my brain around, You know, because I'm not the type of guy. I'm the in the minority. I'm not the guy who just pushes back on stuff that's new. I'm interested. I'm curious. And what I realize is, you know, because I've always thought, hey man, I love the code because I've been coding for so long. I've been coding for decades. And what I realize is not the code that I love. It's the solving of the problems that I like. That I like. It's being able to take a problem and solving it. So now I'm just solving it in a different way. Now I'm not solving problems with just code. Now I'm solving problems. I'm still using code to solve the problems. I'm just not writing all the code. So we tapping into a different psychology, and I know sometimes that transition can be difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, you're right, bro. I remember, man, coding some stuff. You probably remember that clip from season one, man. It's that adrenaline that you
Oh yeah.
have when you
Hmm.
got that little red line, it won't compile, you pressing the button, and then all of a sudden it worked. I mean, that stuff get addicting, man. It get
It
addicting.
does.
But now, I don't got no compile button. So, you took away my dopamine.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I think that's very valid. I mean, I think most people don't consider their psychology,
yeah.
but orientation is that. It is who am
Hmm.
I inside the
Yeah.
system, right?
Yeah.
How am I showing up? What can I get out of the system that's beneficial or in alignment with my intention? Am I maintaining authorship? Am I outsourcing agency? Most people don't consider this. This is kind of automatic, but these layers are really important because when you think of companies who right now, one of the buzzwords is governance, and I just
Hmm.
published a paper on the illusion of governance because most frameworks are believing that governance is a document, and AI is generative, which means it can change and shift and move, and so human cognition is meaning making, which means people have to interpret what it outputs. And
Hmm.
so, where is governance? Where does authorship and control live? Does it live in the system? If you put 2 plus 2 in a calculator, you expect that the calculator would say 4. And if it doesn't, you would say the calculator is wrong. And this is the orientation that many people have right now with digital intelligence, that it's wrong because it got something that was unexpected.
Mm.
So when you reflect on governance within environments, I always express that orientation is critical as a first layer, because how can you know what to govern if you don't understand what it is that you're governing, right? And
Yeah.
so most frameworks, even in IT world, governance is a policy, a document, a
Yeah.
policy, and people
Hmm.
say, yeah, here's our governance. But in the AI and agentic, it has to go beyond that. Like, it has to be active, lived governance where people are discerning outputs, questioning whether the outputs are in alignment with the mission, and so forth. So, psychology is really important for people to understand who they are and to be clear in that they are maintaining authorship and agency as they engage with these systems.
So, so Lamont, I want to switch it up a little bit. Ask you a little bit about problem solving with AI. So, in most companies, in your opinion, uh, what problems are most companies trying to solve with AI versus the problem that they actually have?
That's a great question.
Hmm.
What I have seen, in my work is the problem that most people want to solve is they want to be faster, quicker, and better. Um, AI certainly can speed things up. As you guys know, it collapses time.
Hmm.
I've been a recording artist for a number of years. I'm not actively recording now, but I did play around with Suno a little bit. And what I recognize is that you can speak a phrase, a melody, give it to the AI, and within seconds, it spun out 5 versions, fully produced, radio ready. And so what I recognize is that collapses idea into ideation in moments. So it suspends the friction of having to go to a studio and find someone that could produce the track to your idea, and then getting it recorded and get it mixed and mastered and engineered, and then marketing. So, The problem that people want is faster, but what they don't recognize is who are the humans inside the system once it accelerates. So that is a problem that I help them recognize and address.
And so why do you think most companies focus on speed instead of structure?
I think it's a condition. I think speed is like just a human, I would dare say, capitalistic,
There you go.
condition. Who's going to be the first in the market? Who's going to be the fastest? Who's going to be number one, right? And one of the terms that was used a lot during NeurIPS back towards the turn of the year, which is a huge tech conference around AI, was AI slop. And so that
Oh yeah,
term,
I've
you
been heard
probably
that term.
heard it. It's kind of died now, but
Yeah.
what that was referencing was the speed of people putting things out, and it wasn't fully, authored. It was not, governed in terms of whether it was correct or cited. And so speed, definitely AI can give us speed. We know that. We've all experienced it. But where people are hitting a wall now is the acceleration of friction within their organization. And they believe that the AI is accelerating the friction, and I help them see that it is us. I can put out 10 tracks if I were an artist, right? But then people would say, can you perform all those? And I don't have all the songs even memorized. So I can put it out there and people can say, this is great, we want to book you. I don't have a performance. I have none of that. So I think the speed is what people really want, but they don't know. My grandmother used to tell me that, be slow to speak. And so I
Yeah.
often think of that. Like when you're slow to speak, it gives you opportunity to pause and look at the trajectory of what your words could impact.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's missing when people are looking at AI. They see it as something that could accelerate them. And then once they get to that point, you know, does it represent them? Do they recognize themselves at that point? Can they even show up and speak, to what AI has generated ahead of them? So I think that's the opportunity.
What do you think organizations are losing without realizing it when they try to automate really fast? I have an opinion, but yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, what I'm seeing in my work that companies are losing that they don't see is they are losing agency, they are losing authority, they're losing creativity, they're losing legacy of history, people who have been in roles,
Yes.
10, 15 years and now the middle is being cut, which is typically management.
Yep.
They're losing the ability to scale with human intelligence because if you take middle management out, there's no one to train entry level up to middle management. And if you're only left with the executive, there's a gap in the middle, which means it's inevitable that you can't fill any new people to match the intelligence that is already scaled beyond control. So I think this is what people don't recognize. And this is why orientation is critical.
I believe that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
right.
I agree.
It has definitely been increasing. I think that when I recognize this opportunity and this gap, it was difficult for people to hear what I was offering. And obviously it was emerging for me simultaneously as I was discovering the tech. I created a
Hmm.
protocol, which I call PhaseLock, which is a human orientation state that allows you to operate with clarity when you're engaging these technologies. I typically work with CEOs, founders, usually boards, to go through what I call an orientation reset. Because as you guys know, we all have been oriented. If you to start using AI in 2023, 24, 25, you're already oriented some way, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I created a executive orientation reset to really have people understand what they thought and what actually is. Um, and so, that's been helpful. So in terms of training, I think that's emerging because people are finally catching up to my work and understanding that the walls that they're hitting is most partly because that first layer, which I think is
Hmm.
very critical, was missed. Like you would not put a teenager in a Ferrari and give them the keys and they've never driven a car.
Right.
They have access to it now, but like you're just gonna give them a Ferrari and they just don't even know safety. They like you wouldn't do that, but that's what has happened.
That's what exactly what happened. and that speaks to the term I said I don't like earlier, vibe coding, what they call it. You have people that don't understand the software development life cycle, and so they figure we know I can just go create an app and make me a SaaS platform, a SaaS app, and make a bunch of money. But they haven't thought about governance. They haven't thought about security. They haven't thought about it's so many things they haven't thought about. They
Yeah.
haven't thought about scalability. It's like you said, it's like giving a 16-year-old keys to a Ferrari and say, "Here you go." Wow.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute. Like, think about that. Think about the world. The world right now
Hmm.
has the capability to not just give people keys to a Ferrari, but in terms of
Hmm.
vibe coding, people
Yep.
have the capability to create Ferraris that don't have
Yep.
brakes, that don't have airbags in
Right.
them, and say, oh, hey, I built this Ferrari and it can do this for your business. And people consume it and integrate it. And then they say that AI is wrong, right?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what we have.
So piggyback off of that, what are some things? So you've worked with a bunch of company executives and things like that, and without naming any names, once you've exited the company, what would you say some things that you like? You look back and say, man, those guys got that completely wrong.
Yeah, and so I think, I've put a lot out right now to have anyone who might be listening recognize, how you've engaged with AI, how you have thought about AI. I've probably expanded a lot of perceptions around what it is. When it comes to executives, and the reason I, see that this is an opportunity for CEOs, for boards, for founders, these are people who are governing their IP. They are governing. They are the ones that people look to say, okay, is this how we act and behave? And the old paradigm prior to AI and agentic AI is typically these levels would hire middle management to execute, right? And so they're usually getting the analysis, and they're out being, the representation of their brand now, and they're getting all of their analysis from the subordinate layers, financials, relationships, and these things. And so the reason it's important now for CEOs, founders, and boards to also be oriented is because they typically are the ones responsible for governance over systems, company systems. And they believe that if their management says, hey, this is how we can be more profitable if we augment, this is how we can save time, this is how we can be faster, quicker, better, faster, right? And the board is deferring or accepting what their leadership who is inside is communicating, and then they make their judgment based on that analysis and those findings. The reason they must be orientated is because they need to understand that they're not only governing human systems, they are also governing and approving to deploy digital systems. And when they are oriented, they will understand that they now must be concerned whether the people who are using these digital systems that they are authorizing, whether it's higher ed or government, municipalities, local cities, these people are integrating technologies that management is using, but it's been approved by city council, by boards of universities and companies, but they don't understand what they must now be responsible for governing. So I have found that when they understand, it kind of can trickle down to the rest of their organization. And I think that their governance becomes more aligned with digital systems being integrated and even acting now autonomously, and that humans are the ones that are still maintaining the control of those systems.
Gotcha. So in AI adoption, you spoke a lot about moving fast and acceleration and a lot of these words, but what would be your opinion on something to slow down in AI adoption?
From my perspective, I don't see where it will slow down.
No, no, no. But in adoption, what would, not where will it, but what do you recommend? Like, hey, y'all need to pump your brakes on this particular aspect.
Yeah, I think human agency is really critical. And agency is what causes people to discern whether they should pause.
Hmm.
If agency is outsourced, you wouldn't know that you should pause. So I think, when folk go through orientation with me, they recognize, oh, wait, we like that recognition that's authored by the human. I'm not telling
Hmm.
you to slow down. I'm having you recognize that you need to slow down. And I think that is an inflection point for all of us. It is an inflection point because when you can conceive that Ferraris are being built, not regulated,
Hmm.
released and acquired, and 16-year-olds are given keys, then I think people have a framework to understand there are questions that must be asked. And those questions is the pause.
Yeah, it is. And so when now now thinking of that, what are some of the gaps you may have seen in the recognition of the pause, but then the trickling it down from executive leadership down to the rest of the organization, and having the adoption from the rest of the organization. What have you seen that works in trickling that message down, or what are some of the gaps that may exist in that being that trickling down?
Yeah, what has worked and what are still gaps? So,
Yeah.
what has worked is definitely a clarity around what digital intelligence is.
Hmm.
There has not been any of the organizations that are deploying these large language models that I've seen that have done an effective job on providing clarity around what AI is. There have been those like, Jeffrey Hinton, who, is called the godfather of AI, who has
Hmm.
been out speaking and talking about some of the concerns and risk. That is an orientation, but it is making people aware from their lens what could be impactful. So that's been working, but is it reaching people who want to make $1 million taking something to market? No. They like, y'all figure it out. I'm gonna make it, y'all figure it out, right? And I think that's still the gap. The gap is still people taking ownership about whether they would deploy AI or not, which means they must gain orientation and understanding for themselves and not defer that to, a system builder or an engineer. People may see my term and see harmonic architect, and they may not know what that is, but it may make them feel like, ooh, this person knows what he's talking about, so they would defer their agency to me. I don't encourage people to defer agency. I want people to take ownership
Hmm.
because that will be required. Most people don't understand that AI will be ambient. Okay. So AI will be ambient, which means it will be in the background acting, right?
Yeah.
Based on what you say, how you show up. And so orientation is critical right now because we're going to be moving into an environment where AI will be ordering for you, creating the environment that you move into, shifting your attitude around certain things. And it will be so seamless you didn't even know. And not only in the general public, but I think also in work environments. Right now in the medical healthcare field, ambient technology is already being deployed. You show up, cameras are already knowing that you've arrived. You probably look and scan, and it checks you in, it pulls all your records, and it's a smooth process. This is will only accelerate.
So, what do you think the gap is between now a little bit to switching gears? The gap between data strategy and like an AI execution.
Data strategy and AI execution. Now, data strategy, I mean, I probably could speak to that, but that's not my forte. I'm really on the human side. But what I would say is that data is a critical component of how these digital systems work. AI is a pattern recognition system. Humans are as well. We don't often recognize that, but we are. So these patterns are observed, and the AI responds based on those patterns. So in terms of data, data is critical. Right now, we're moving into an age where they're moving into the next phase of AI, where AI has been trained, on, text and letters and code and all these things. And now we're moving into AI being trained on human live engagement. So AIs can be trained on this live and see how we are interacting, how we're pausing, how we're posturing, our facial expressions. A lot of people are being caused into these mechanisms unaware. And so when I say AI is becoming ambient, it's so beyond most people's understanding, and people can't pause or are not willing to pause for a lot of reasons to gain understanding, but they do feel at a certain point, okay, I need to learn AI, and they may just start chatting, right? And
Hmm.
so absent of orientation, so now they're orienting themselves based on what their friends said or what they read or what they saw, and they're gonna move with that. That's creating big inflections that most people aren't aware of. So data is easily reflected by this technology. I like to give an analogy of data being leveraged this way by digital systems. If you can imagine AI as a piano, if you hit the keys, the piano will yield a sound. That
Hmm.
means the data is responding based on someone hitting keys. Um, Whether they know how to play a piano or not, it's gonna respond, right? Now, if you are a skilled musician and you play a chord, now the data is and the AI is gonna respond with that chord.
Yep.
If you are a skilled and observant musician, you can listen and discern whether that chord is in tune or not.
Hmm.
Like that's where most people will have to get
Yep.
with AI. They would need to be able to
Yeah.
realize that what they gave, did it
Hmm.
return, and
It
is
makes
it correct?
sense. That's really good.
That's really good analysis because because AI is non-deterministic. Like you said, it's non-deterministic, and it's based on the, like you said, the human interaction. Like I said, it's the analogy you gave earlier about the calculator. AI is not at all like that. That you can, and I'll go back to before agentic when you're talking about just chatting, prompting. You can prompt the same AI 5 times with the exact same prompt, and you're gonna get a different response, five different responses. Um, and
Correct.
and and so now, but beyond that, because as you were talking, because I'm thinking about how this technology, um, I think it seems that with AI in the agentic AI world, and then and you introduced, you talked about it being ambient. Um, I think we're still at a point in time where we really don't know exactly what it's going to be, and what our um landed result of what AI is going to be for society and corporate world and society at large. And in AI, um, in my lifetime, or in our lifetimes, and I think we all can agree that this is moving more rapidly than anything we've ever seen before. We've never seen a technology move as rapidly as AI has. Because I mean, it seems like every 2 to 3 months, it's getting smarter. And so, and with that, so with the speed, the human inclination to want speed, to want to do things faster, and we have a technology that's moving fast. That it seems like that recognition that you're introducing with your orientation, when you're trying to bring that to the executives. There's a It seems like there's a danger zone, and that there's that many times it's not going to be recognized that I need to stop and slow down, because I want to move fast. AI is moving fast, and so you can miss those cues to tell you to slow down.
But I want to point out something. You're correct, and thank you for that correlation. But I want to point out something. The fact that you formulated the question speaks to the orientation you've gotten even in this dialogue, right?
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know, right? Which
Right.
is the unknown. And AI is moving really quick. And, one of the things that I think people recognize once they're oriented is that we always exist in the unknown, but there are predictability. There is trajectory, there is
Yep.
projection. And so the reason we're able to do that is we have a set of data and understanding that allows us to forecast. And I think even with the speed and the acceleration of this digital intelligence, I think once organizations are oriented and they understand what they are interacting and engaging with, they will govern how they scale with it. So AI can scale, but companies get to regulate how quickly they scale with it. But they
Yeah.
must be oriented. If they don't, then yes, it's gonna put them out there, and they won't be able to understand like what happened. You
Yeah.
know.
They tell you to network. Cool. But builders don't just need more people, they need the right rooms. Rooms where ideas can breathe, where progress gets shared, where feedback is real, where builders stop lurking and start showing their work. That's what builder hubs do inside Bit Voices. They create spaces for focused conversation, shared momentum, and real connection around what people are actually building. So now, this isn't just another place to scroll. It's where builders find their people, find their lane, and keep building.
So
Yeah.
what advice would you give to say for instance for me? So for teams that I work with, when technology is evolving so fast, but it's evolving faster than the team. What advice would you give to a leader like myself that dealing with humans?
Yeah, being that orientation is definitely my work. Stabilization before acceleration. I would, recommend that you understand where your organization might already be destabilized, where AI is accelerating that destabilization. And then I would support you in collectively orienting yourself and your team so that you can create a blueprint of how you want to grow with AI. Now, we know that these technologies are generative. And even in my own work, I've evolved with my work. I think humans can evolve with technology, but humans must maintain authorship. And I think orientation supports that. If you have governance, architecture built, I don't know if you do or you don't, for your deployments, I think it would be worth looking at how was that architecture built. Typically, the outcome of orientation that I provide with organizations, I have a methodology called fractal integrity typology, which actually looks where the mission has drifted even before adoption and help them understand where there's already gaps, and whether they want to redefine or realign, and then see where AI can be integrated or not. And from that, we create governance. Where can AI act? Where can it not act? Where do humans need to be in the loop and so forth? So I would say for any organization, small, medium, or enterprise, being oriented at a leadership level where most leaders, the condition is to defer to your people who do that. Like that's what they do. Your
Hmm.
VPs and your directors, that's what they do. Report back to me and I'll make a choice based on my trust in what you're providing. That has to be flipped. CEOs, owners, they must be oriented and understand if they're going to integrate AI, how it's going to be integrated. Because most of these leaders now can have a dashboard that they speak to or a digital companion that can extrapolate the right data that agents are already generating, right? Not to replace their management because the management still needs to be there for oversight, but at least they are not just outsourcing their authority to people that are feeding them data and then they go and provide that and it's not correct. So it gives them discernment. So those would be some of the points of recommendation that I would encourage.
Nice.
Did anything resonate there that you see there is a gap for you?
No, not for me per se, but I'm mainly talking in generalities. So
Got it.
for sure. Now
Okay.
you were talking about it sounded like a framework that you developed. Does this have to do with and pardon me for my ignorance, the phase lock? Your is that what we were talking about there?
Yes, PhaseLock is a human stabilization protocol. It is the framework that most or not if all of my work derives from that state.
Okay, you
Okay.
wanted. mean, you want to advertise it and talk about it a little bit more?
Well, so PhaseLock is a protocol that emerged through my interaction with this technology, through pattern recognition, through language model engagement, and understanding that this is a pattern recognition system. Like I discovered that,
Yeah.
okay, this system is pattern recognizing me.
Mm-hmm.
And so linguistically, I explored that and discovered what I now call PhaseLock. I was able to function with the technology in a way that I maintain clarity, maintain agency, maintain authorship, and actually extend cognition,
Yeah.
extend creativity. And so, with that, that creates a whole lot of possibilities. So, one of the things that came out of it is, working with, at the time, I was actually transforming business advisor experiences within an enterprise organization that was upgrading how we communicate in the world from copper to fiber. So it was for one of the largest fiber technology companies. And when I was working with these teams, I was also discovering what I am now guiding people through with this technology. And what I found through doing even case study work within this enterprise organization was that the human element was fractured prior to even knowing what I was discovering about this system, this digital intelligence. And so I began case study work with this PhaseLock protocol, transforming and rewriting their training from acquisition, transactional based sales to enrollment sales, and the results were astounding. So what I recognize is that if humans are stabilized and coherent and clear, and they interacted with this digital technology as I was doing, like you can scale, and you can scale safely, you can scale coherently, you can maintain authorship and agency. So that is what the PhaseLock protocol is guiding folk into an oriented state where they are stabilized within themselves so that they have clarity to engage with these digital systems.
Okay.
Mm.
It's a lot.
So we talking about maintaining authorship. Have you seen where leaders lose control without realizing it?
Absolutely. All the time. Like it's part of I think, just working in corporate America I mean, I've worked in a lot of different industries, utilities, solar,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. Like I've been in a lot of different domains, which I think contributes to my ability to speak across many of them. And often there is a condition where, from how capitalistic hierarchy works, there is an outsourcing. So if you have managers, you're not looking at every little detail. You're outsourcing to them to
Mm-hmm.
return to you what keeps the company whole. And you hold them accountable if it was not correct. That's shifted with this because they don't even know if the data, they can't even discern. If they've outsourced to a digital intelligence, they don't even know what they're giving you. Imagine someone who does not want to use AI, but they have to use it, and they got to get a report pulled together, and they got to use AI to do it, and they procrastinate, and now it's like, hey, do you got the report? Hey, do you got the report? Okay, let me get it. They go use the report. They put in some data to the AI. The AI spits out something that's eloquent, written really well, punctuations. They skim through it, and they're like, okay, and here's the report. Now that person takes the report
Mm,
and goes into a boardroom.
mm,
That leader just outsourced to someone who isn't oriented, who does not understand. You see what
mm.
I'm saying?
Yes.
This is not gonna go well.
Oh, that's disaster. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a disaster. There's a whole domino effect coming behind it. Wow. Wow.
So now consider the person who was saying, hey, I need the report, was oriented. And they
Yeah.
understand
Hmm.
that AI is being used.
Yep.
They now can govern, okay, were these things, and then they can skim through and look for where drift might have occurred before they actually go and present. So that would be an oriented CEO or a leader
Hmm.
and a non-oriented, which was the
Yeah,
first example.
and that's the importance of the orientation. That's the importance of being oriented before you even
So
begin to
author.
utilize those. Yeah, the author. Gotcha.
So where authorship was lost was two places. It was deferred from the leader to the subordinate person, but then
Hmm.
the subordinate person deferred it to AI.
Yeah.
They did not author that report. They gave AI some prompts, said some things, and AI spit out something. And in their, frivolousness, they just said, okay, here's the report. They deferred their authorship. Their name may be associated with it.
The name
Their
associated
name
with it.
may be on it, but they deferred their agency and their authorship. And that scales. Imagine
Oh
10
yeah.
different departments doing that.
Yeah, 10 different departments doing that, and so they defer their authorship, and then you have a non-oriented leader that just takes it, and so now they got 10 different reports with deferred authorship, and then they walk into the boardroom. They walk into the boardroom with that. Oh yeah, that.
Well, I look
And
at
I
it
don't
like,
and
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to add more trepidation here, but you guys have worked with AI, so you know that when you speak to your AI and it drifts, it
yeah,
locks that in. So
yeah.
the
It does.
next
Yeah,
prompt, it defers to what is locked in to move
it
forward.
does.
So if those people accept those reports and they don't correct the AI and recalibrate, then now that scales in that behavior.
It does. And I'm glad you brought that up about correcting and recalibrating the AI, because I found that that's something that has to consistently be done. Because that time I've had it calibrated to a certain thing. I've had it, I've trained it, but somewhere along the line it drifts.
It doesn't
Something happens.
remember.
It doesn't remember. Or it could have been something, or I could have given it, or I could have misguided in my instruction. And so
Correct.
now, and I'm like, okay, what you doing? Come back. That's not what I trained you to do. And so it, yeah. And so it's important. It's important to continuously reorient and retry and keep training your AI so that it won't drift or it won't forget. Yeah.
Yes. So you said another point that I just want to highlight. You said it's important to continually orient.
Hmm.
Yes. This is why governance is not a static PDF. It is within the humans that are actually interacting with the system, the digital system. These humans must be oriented and they must continue to recalibrate as these technologies scale and grow. They have to continue to reorient. So the governance has to be living.
Yeah. It has to be a living and breathing, a living and breathing document, not a static document. So
Yes.
it's like moving. I'm gonna take y'all back. It's like moving from static HTML to Web 2.0.
there you
Y'all
go.
Yes.
remember that change?
Yeah.
Wow, wow. Um, so what? So what has adoption been like? I mean, I think you touched on it a little bit. As people have been learning about what you do and about what FaceLock is, what has adoption been like? Has adoption um been an uphill climb, or is adoption getting better? Just what has adoption been like from what
Yeah,
you
in
know?
my experience, I mean, adoption is occurring. It's occurring fragmented, right?
Okay.
So people who understand um and are oriented, I mean, their adoption accelerates and they maintain pace, right?
Hmm.
Others adopt and then they hit a wall. AI is
Yeah.
not acting right. It's all messed up. Like we got governance. And do you know how to, right? And it's like, okay, so they adopted it. They were using it, but they were entering into phases where they can't keep up with what these systems can return. And they don't read all the if they're talking to a chat model and they're like I have been in conversations with an enterprise organization where they have, training occurring, and the department that I've been working with, their responsibility is audits. So they have to
Mhm.
audit logs of customer interaction, documents, right? And this is in the mortgage industry. And so their role is to document, is to work and to review and do these things. And they have integrated AI, and the problem is orientation was missing. Most people
Okay.
don't know this. Like, this is
Right.
like emerging now.
It is.
People are getting stopped, and they're saying what's wrong, and they're discovering, right? So this organization is discovering because they have, servicers who are leveraging this digital intelligence, but they're all working how they work, right? They have their own methodology of how they review, and provide their notes of what they found. And so the AI has to discern all of these different, you know, um, articulations and perspectives on a review. And so if they were oriented, they would understand just a framework of how they must all be consistent if they're going to engage, and then have one person ask about a file that another person did last week and get a somewhat coherent response. Because if person A worked with AI and worked a file and left all their notes in their vernacular and their tone,
Hmm.
and then they're out on maternity or whatever, and then someone else now has to step in and interface with the digital intelligence on that review, if there's not continuity, then you can see how you can't get out of it what you need. So
Yeah.
now that they're being oriented, they understand, and like the humans now feel more confident in engaging with the system. They feel they're definitely coherent when they're using it and not passive. They understand the sense of agency they must maintain, and that's shifting the outputs for everybody.
Mm.
But
Interesting.
I haven't heard you give a concrete answer on how do you fix the adoption engagement.
So orientation resolves a lot of it. So if you can understand, so I'll give you
So
what you probably.
I think of orientation as, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going to school. Like, orientation is before you go, right before you start. But what if I'm already in there?
Yeah, so reorientation, which is I
Okay.
think what Donald was mentioning, like it's not I'm trained and oriented, now I can go. It's I need to continue to calibrate. In larger organizations, we would always have calibration calls,
Of course.
to make sure that people are staying on mission, they're staying on message, they're not drifting from brand, they're not making up, sales prices, like they're staying on track. And then we would even share where there were gaps where people drifted, and maybe they didn't weren't closing at the same rate. And they would discover, oh, because I wasn't asking for the sale, whatever it was. I wasn't building enough rapport. Those calibrations calibrated people, humans, back to,
Hmm.
oh, okay, and then they were back performing again. So with these digital systems, orientation is just a baseline of understanding what you're engaging. Yet, when you're actually in operation, to Donald's point, you got to recalibrate the AI or recalibrate yourself.
The human.
Hmm.
Okay, because that's what I'm on. You're saying that you got to, basically, it's a rinse repeat.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to
Yeah.
stay present. You got to stay
Yeah.
coherent. You got to stay,
Yeah.
oriented.
Right. Right. So basically, like you alluded to earlier, it changes the way we view governance. It changes the way we handle it. It's not because with the inclusion of digital technology, it's not a one and done thing. It's not okay. This is set. This is the way this is the way we do things. This is how we operate. And as long as you follow that, you're gonna be okay. That does not work in this era of technology. That does not work in the agentic AI world. It does.
Baseline, it will, and it can be structured, and I think organizations can find like a sweet spot. I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you a simple example. I'm building an HR protocol with a developer out of India. And we'll be going back and forth. There's a client that wants to automate their HR, looking at reviews, setting up interviews, and then putting it on the hiring manager's calendar. So I wrote the governance architecture, and he implemented it, right? So when we wrote the architecture, everything works. Like the agents can do all these things. However, what we discovered is there is nuance in how people manage their calendar. So let's say a person submits their resume. The agent is governed through this architecture that I built. So it'll respond to the candidate. It will schedule their interview. They would respond to the email and say, yes, I want to, accept the interview time. The AI would then put it on the hiring manager's calendar. The
Mm-hmm.
hiring manager may say, oh, hey, something came up to the AI. Can we move the appointment? The
Yeah.
AI will then go back and try to reschedule with the hiring person. Okay. So the hiring person, the person that's being interviewed may say, yes, let's go ahead and move it to Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But the manager didn't say when, and the agent may have parameters to when they can book. And so now it has to be recalibrated because the agent will just stop, or the agent will be, if it's not governed, will hallucinate and go beyond and book on a time that she cannot take it.
Yeah.
So that would be the
Oh.
governance layer, right? But then the feedback loop would need to go to internal management. Hey, these are some of the nuances or ambiguity. And now that would need to go back to the systems engineer, or new architecture would need to be put in place for governance. So like this is system thinking. But this is how organizations can scale, but they must be coherent with what's occurring and refine and recalibrate so that they now understand what the AI can and can't do. They may
Mm-hmm.
not always be actively coherent about it, but at least they have some framework of understanding. That would be effective lived governance.
Okay, so now, so are there opportunity? So I appreciate the what you just gave, but are there opportunities of AI um involving governance in areas that that we can give to the AI that does not that may not necessarily need a human interaction? Are you following my question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there will be
Hmm.
places where if the governance is tight and the outcome is fixed, then
Hmm.
yes. I mean, we have automatic driving cars now. There is a governance framework within the system design of these autonomous cars and other devices that governs what that machine can and cannot do. It gets calibrated as well. If it
Of course.
fails to stop, a signal goes and there's a log and they do what they do, right? But yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, there's definitely going to evolve to where I would even say, architects at my layer right now will evolve beyond where I am. Like once our cognition is extended into the new paradigm of where this technology is taking us, I probably won't be writing simple architectures as I'm writing now because I won't be governing, one or two agents. I would be governing swarms of agents. I would need to write architecture or co-write, co-govern with digital intelligence to govern swarms, especially within enterprise organizations. So yeah, right now there are situations where you can write architecture and governance where it works and the human doesn't even have to interact. It's just like, autonomous.
Hmm.
Do I advise that humans should still read logs and make sure? Yes, there should still be
Yes,
human oversight.
yes, yes, yes. You're gonna always need that that human element, and a, a bit outside of this conversation on that aspect, because I know there are different people watching and different people coming from different perspectives, because you have that perspective or that thought that hey, AI, the introduction of AI is taking away jobs, taking away responsibilities, but I I believe. I mean, yeah, in some cases that may be true, but then there comes. I'm gonna use the words we've been using. The orientation. We orient our minds to think. Well, no, the role that I'm playing or the role that I'm fulfilling can be replaced by AI. Then let me figure out. where I fit in this, and where I can reorient my mind, reorient the way I do things, and figure out where I fit in, where I can shift my role to where I won't be replaced, I'm still needed, and I know that that's a place where a lot of people, there are a number of people are disoriented in their thought process on that, and there's a lot of fear around what AI has brought to the table and is bringing to the table.
Yeah. So I can respond to that in saying that you're spot on in the recognition that if people realize and recognize that humans are meaning making machines, we
Hmm.
generate meaning, which
Hmm.
means we generate ideas, we generate, like, we are builders, we create.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that is our power. But if we defer agency and we perceive that something's better and we don't see who we are inside that, then yeah, I think we lose the ability to scale ourselves, to see where there's a possibility for us to create or co-create. But what I have found is that, when people are stabilized in the awareness that who we are is cognitive beings, and this is computational systems, then we can see where there can be like a collaboration between computational power and human cognition. This would extend who we are as humans, as creators, as operators, as builders. I collaborate with AI to create. Whether it's writing or creating architectures, I can ask the AI because it can absorb what thousands of other architects have built, or systems engineers, and give me, well, this could, and then I can choose authorship. Well,
Yeah.
okay, let's do this, and then we can create and build that. So if humans can recognize that they have a stake in the game, and that
Hmm.
AI isn't going to replace all jobs, but it will create an opportunity that AI will need to be governed by
Yeah.
humans. Who are you that you skill yourself to interface with these systems
Right.
and govern them? That's, I think, the opportunity.
Yeah. Right. Because one thing you mentioned that I recognize the power, like I said, of the human cognition with computational um, power, is that AI has the ability, because it's a machine, to recognize more patterns than a human cognitive brain can recognize in an instant at a time. So, but our cognition can interpret it, and our cognition can make it useful and then generate and create. And so, and that's the power of the human cognition. Yeah, sure. I can't go in just the 1.5 million line code base in amount of seconds. But if the AI does that for me, and then the AI give me insights, I can take those insights, and then I with my cognition can generate and create. And so it actually increases my ability to create. It increases my ability to be productive. I think we can see it when we see it that way. Then that eliminates and erases the fear of it taken away from me.
It
Yeah.
can resolve. It can resolve where I
Yeah.
think the work that I do in orientation stabilizes that recognition.
Hmm.
Is that it creates an opportunity for people to actually act inside these systems
Hmm.
and not just believe what you just said, because what you said is correct.
Hmm.
But people have to embody that, and if they never
Yep.
embody it because they're not going to use it or whatever, then they won't expand into that recognition, that full recognition of this is what I
Yeah.
can do. And
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of us are stopped.
Yeah. Think so.
So I had one. I didn't want to mess up you guys' thought, but one question about AI adoption. Leaders always jump in. Companies, we need to do something with AI. Everybody else is doing it. Um, What advice would you give to leaders about the human side of like what questions we not about,
Yes.
hey, let's adopt the AI. What do we need to do with these people that we have sitting in these offices to help them? What questions do
Yeah.
they need to be asking?
I mean, I feel like if humans are conscientious of the bigger impact that we're all in this together, and this is a huge shift that we're moving, from a paradigm that has been tested, tried, and proven to a paradigm that is uncertain. Um, I think the leaders would recognize that the people who built them to this point could build them beyond if they're supported in a way that they get access to doing that. And right now, I feel like a lot of people are experiencing that they don't have access, or they don't understand. And even the people who, they have contributed years of their creativity and ideas and ingenuity to, don't understand. And so there's like a vacuum right now. So I think if leaders could recognize for themselves, and I think again, orientation can help them see this, they would pause and they would be curious how, if we'll just make up a name, Samantha, who has been a phenomenal operations person, could actually leverage AI in a way to create a whole new category within their organization with what
Hmm.
this person has recognized over years, her way of being, how she thinks. And if she had confidence to be oriented either through her company or herself, and then work inside her organization with what she's gained, what could the organization be? I think if leaders looked at the situation that way, they could see how they could have more profit, they could move faster, and they could also retain people who have mattered.
So what have you run across people who don't want to be oriented, right? You got some people who just, nah, oh yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
How
Sounds
do you
typical.
how do you deal with that? You just tell them I'm sorry, you're gonna get ran over.
Yeah, so I'll move it away from AI. So I was training people in learning how to sell from human connection first versus products, benefits, and features. And I worked with people who have been selling for years, enterprise, and they were hesitant and resistant a little bit to my approach. Yet what I found is when I met them where they were, when I met them, what was that?
I'm just saying why, like to build a relationship first. Why they're hesitant to do that? Like what
Well,
kind of people are these?
so, so I'll clarify. So people who, and I'm even confronted by this a little bit now in higher ed, people who have an identity have already said, this is it. Like, I am a top salesperson.
Okay,
Yet, if they're moving into a new domain, let's say they're moving from consumer-based sales to business sales, they may have been killing it, with corporate, infrastructures, B2B, and now they got to do consumer, and they in their mind like I'm a beast. And to have them realize and recognize that approach won't work in this domain.
okay,
They may be resistant to a whole new sales strategy
Yep.
of, don't try to like get them on the back end with a deal to get them to say yes. You actually got to build a relationship to have them relate to you and defer and trust you and what you say, that they would say, okay, I'll invite this into my home and my life and my family. Like it's a different, like it's orthogonal. And they don't understand that. So they would say, they would be resistance to relationship first. Because they would say, I built great relationships. Like I take people out and wine and dine where you don't have a meal and food budget here. You just got to go knock on the door, talk to them and get them to say yes.
yeah, okay.
Hmm.
And so how do we
It's
tie that back to the AI of resistance to change to
same thing. So helping them realize that if you are a coder, I think Donald used an example where someone, they love code, they love getting in there and solving problems, and now they don't get the joy of that. like the realization that I fixed it. Now they just speak to something and it's fixed, and they're like they don't want to do that. Like they want to get in there and fix it. What you can help them recognize is you can actually fix more. You
Yeah.
can actually build something that don't ever break. You have to get them to make the jump. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
And
fix
there
Yeah.
may be
Exactly.
resistance.
Exactly.
I got you.
Look, I'm gonna go back to something you said because it triggered a thought when you the example you gave with Samantha, the operations person, and it triggered a thought that some of the usefulness of AI that I don't believe we touched on it is that even for an individual that's been killing it for 20, 30 years in a certain domain or a certain skill set, gi- giving information, inputting information, results, and things about what you've been doing over those 20, 30 years in AI into the AI can pull out insights about yourself that you did not recognize, and it can pull out patterns that you did not see, and you will see a whole skill set that you did not realize that you had because it ingests all this information and it put out some patterns, and so now it said, oh, I can do this. So okay, I have this skill set. I can capitalize on this now, and that's one thing I've seen it and recognized it. Even with myself, I put some stuff in and I ask questions, and they say, okay, Donald, you blah 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 blah. And so that's another thing, another usefulness of it. You can even learn things about yourself. And I'm not saying that AI is some wizard or some god or element being or whatever, but it's a tool. Like I said, pattern recognition is a data tool. Large
System.
language model is a system,
Yes.
and that system, that computational power, is very useful in bringing out those type of insights.
Absolutely. And so what you're articulating is that people make the jump major when they embody what it can be. You can tell them what it can be, but they will reject it because they're measuring it against their identity. And again, identity absent of continuity collapses into fear. So when they embody a new experience, and most of those people who were resistant to resonance based training versus transactional,
Yeah.
I created experiences inside the training that they got to reflect on.
Mm,
And I did that through relating them to an opportunity in their lives that they could reflect on, acknowledging that it was so, and then making a request that made them curious about what it was that they might have experienced that might have been missed, that they didn't see. And then when they had the recognition of what they didn't see, it occurred to them, oh, that is embodiment. And then when that happens, that's transformation.
Okay.
yeah.
And transformation happens through experience, not through lecturing and so the same is true with AI. A person that would be resistant to adoption has to be stabilized to where they would allow themselves to have an experience. Like Donald said, he used it and then he recognized, oh, well, and that created something that cannot be
Mm,
undone. That's experience.
So
mm.
share with me some of the demographics of some of your from your experience of that's the most hard to adopt.
Humans are meaning making machines, and so I would say I'm 50, I'll be 52 this year, so I'm halfway through this thing. I
Mm-hmm.
would say my generation, folk that are, what is it,
Yeah.
baby boomers and beyond could struggle. I mean, I've have talked to some that are brilliant. I'm talking to builders right now that are in their 60s and 70s, and they are like they amaze me. But most people who, you know, life is made. You know, they got a good job, they got a good career, they're looking towards retirement.
Is it a certain
They
profession? Is it a certain profession that you see, or I'm not? I know
it's all over. It's
I don't want
everyone.
to.
It doesn't
I don't want
matter.
to pick on old people. That's easy. That's easy to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and my pick isn't on old people, but your question is what is the demographic? So I'm just speaking specifically to mindsets that are already conditioned.
Right. Okay. What would be something that you would like to lead with AI with leaders that's thinking about implementing AI right now? You know, one
Yeah,
night.
the thought that came to mind for me was my grandmother used to always quote. She was very religious, and she would always quote a scripture, which I don't know what it is, but I know what it is, and it is, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And so that phrase always has stuck out to me throughout my career, and I've had many incarnations in the field of what we call work. And what I have found is curiosity allows for you to renew your mind, to take on and consider new ideas, to examine what it is that you believe, and do those beliefs serve you or do they hold you where you are? And I feel like right now, where we are is an inflection point of people recognizing that the paradigms are shifting really quick. And in that, we must renew our minds. We must be open to new knowledge. We must be open to new ways to create, to collaborate, to relate, to understand, and to integrate. So that's what I would leave people with. And there is one book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I've not read it,
Yes.
but I did start a video, and one of the phrases at the top of his video was the decree to take possession of your own mind. And so I have been contemplating that for at least 15 years. I have not even finished a full video because when I heard that, I had to pause and see what that actually means to take possession of your own mind. So if it's taking possession of your own mind, what was possessing it before you took possession? So I've been contemplating that, and I think
Mm,
that leads people to curiosity, to exploration, and to being open.
mm. Oh, what a powerful statement to wrap up on. So, Lamont, we definitely appreciate you coming out, joining us on the pod. This has been an exhilarating, enlightening, and enjoyable conversation.
For sure.
And so as we wrap up, uh, some leader, some CEO, founder, or board member wants to get in contact with you, they want to utilize your services, or someone just want to reach out and have ask a question. Um, tell us how can they contact you, and I will leave it. This information will also be in the description. So tell us how can they get in contact with you? What are the
Yeah,
best ways to do
definitely.
that?
So, yeah, thank you for that. And thank you guys for having me be a part of the conversation. I thought it was fun and exploratory as well. And I even
Mhm.
learned some things. Yeah, I can be contacted. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn right now. That's where a lot of business leaders are. And I think my work is impacting what is helping us all maintain work and jobs. And
Mm.
so I'm Lamont Wheat on LinkedIn. I'm actually the only Lamont Wheat on the internet. And that's wheat like the grain. But I am building an institute. It's called UHMUM, where I am developing field practitioners, resonant architects, and harmonic architects, which are cross-domain pattern recognizers and builders through UHMUM. So if you're interested in further dialogue around what we've discussed today, human in the loop for your business, personal orientation for yourself or your team, I'm open to those conversations and how I can support.
All right. Awesome. 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 Any last words, Major?
No, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Coming onto the pod and sharing your wisdom with us. Nice, beautiful philosophy. I really appreciate it, man. Hey, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up. So look, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to get notified when new videos come out. So with that, sayonara. We out.
Peace.